be a weekend lover. Yeah, I'ma be the best damn lover you got.
The story begins by introducing a young girl named Ban Hee-jin, who is often called Bonnie. While other children her age would run outside to play, laugh, and chase each other in the sun, Bonnie preferred the quiet company of books. Her world was filled with pages and pictures, not playgrounds and games. Even at such a young age, Bonnie had a very particular taste when choosing books. She wouldn't simply grab any story. She would carefully select the ones that had handsome characters on the cover. If the book showed a charming prince with a perfect smile and dreamy eyes, Bonnie's imagination would light up. She would open the book with a bright smile and start drawing. Page after page, she would sketch the face of the prince, trying to capture every detail of his beauty. Her fascination with handsome characters stayed with her as she grew older. As a teenager, she blossomed into a beautiful young woman. Her love for drawing remained strong, and so did her fascination with good-looking people. This passion shaped her path. She went to a special school where she could hone her artistic skills, and every time a handsome teacher walked into the classroom, her eyes would sparkle. The world suddenly felt brighter and more beautiful. With each attractive teacher she encountered, she felt motivated to study harder. Handsomeness, for her, had become a source of inspiration. This passion eventually led her to choose sculpture as her major in college. She found great joy in shaping faces and bodies with her hands, especially those that represented the kind of beauty she adored. During college, she became close with two female friends who loved her dearly. They often hung out in Bonnie's studio space, a cozy room filled with sketches, tools, and half-finished sculptures. One afternoon, they gathered around a statue Bonnie had just completed, a sculpture of a breathtakingly handsome man. As they admired her work, the topic of Bonnie's love life came up. "So, Bonnie, tell us about your boyfriend," one of her friends teased. There was curiosity in the air. Given her obsession with beauty, they naturally assumed her boyfriend must look like someone straight out of a romantic drama. Just then, Bonnie's boyfriend showed up, and to everyone's surprise, he was not handsome. Her friends were stunned. How could Bonnie, someone who had always been drawn to beautiful faces, end up with a man who was, well, average at best? Seeing their puzzled expressions, Bonnie calmly explained, "He admires me deeply. That's all I really need." She told them how he had always been sincere. He had shown his feelings over and over again, never giving up, always supporting her and making her feel seen and special. Over time, his persistence and admiration touched her heart. Eventually, she accepted his love, not because of his looks, but because of the way he treated her. Her friends still couldn't quite believe it. It felt like Bonnie had broken her own rule. But seeing how genuinely happy she was in the relationship, their doubts began to fade. What mattered most was that Bonnie was content, and if she was happy, they were happy too. One sunny afternoon, Bonnie's boyfriend came to see her with an excited look on his face. He had planned something special and couldn't wait to tell her. "Let's go on a trip together," he said warmly, his eyes full of hope. "Just the two of us, to somewhere peaceful, away from everything." At first, Bonnie was hesitant. She wasn't the spontaneous type when it came to traveling. But her boyfriend gently persuaded her, and eventually, she agreed. Her heart softened seeing how eager he was. To make the moment even more memorable, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small jewelry box. Inside was a delicate necklace with a shiny pendant that sparkled under the light. "This is for you," he said. "Let me put it on." Bonnie smiled shyly and leaned forward. But just as he reached to clasp it around her neck, a young man walked by too quickly and accidentally bumped into him. The necklace slipped from his hands and fell to the ground. Startled, Bonnie quickly bent down and picked it up. Thankfully, it wasn't damaged. Her boyfriend, however, was furious. "Hey, watch where you're going," he shouted at the man, who barely looked back. "It's okay," Bonnie said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "The necklace is fine, no harm done." She always had a way of calming him down. With a sigh, he nodded and held her hand tightly. Later that day, Bonnie met her close friend at the restaurant where she worked. Over drinks, she shared the story of the gift and the planned trip. She smiled as she told her friend how her boyfriend had tried so hard to surprise her, even if it hadn't gone perfectly. But her friend's reaction wasn't warm. "That man again?" she muttered. "I still don't get what you see in him." Bonnie's friend was sharp-tongued and brutally honest. She had no patience for people she didn't respect, and Bonnie's boyfriend was at the top of her dislike list. Interestingly, this same friend had recently been confessed to by a customer at the restaurant. He was kind, polite, and had clearly been nervous about sharing his feelings. But she had brushed him off easily. "I told him I have a terrible personality," she said with a smirk. That usually scares them off. Bonnie couldn't help but laugh. Her friend was fearless when it came to turning people down. Meanwhile, Bonnie had accepted her boyfriend's feelings almost effortlessly, despite the lack of outer beauty her friend thought essential. As they sat talking, a handsome university student entered the restaurant. He approached their table but only had eyes for Bonnie's friend. They chatted for a while, and it was clear he was interested in her. Bonnie sat quietly, watching him. He never even glanced at her. After the student left, Bonnie turned to her friend and said with a small smile, "This is exactly why I don't date handsome guys. They never look my way." Her voice wasn't bitter, it was full of quiet acceptance. She had spent so long admiring beautiful people from afar, only to feel invisible to them. In contrast, her boyfriend, flawed in appearance but sincere in love, had always seen her clearly. To Bonnie, that meant more than any pretty face ever could. Later that evening, Bonnie tried to call her boyfriend. She wanted to talk about the trip, the necklace, and maybe share how happy she felt earlier that day. But he didn't pick up. In truth, he saw the call but couldn't be bothered. At that moment, he was sitting in the school's radio booth during a live broadcast. He didn't want to talk to Bonnie, not because he was busy, but because he simply didn't feel like it. Then, his phone rang again. This time, it was from a friend. With a lazy smile, he answered the call and began chatting, completely unaware that the radio microphone in front of him was still live. Every word he said was being broadcast to the entire campus. What he said next changed everything. "Yeah, I finally convinced Bonnie to go on a trip with me," he bragged. "I even gave her that necklace to make her feel special. She acts all high and mighty, but I'll break her. She's not that hard, really. Just playing hard to get. You know how it is." His voice oozed with arrogance and disrespect. Somewhere on campus, Bonnie had just turned on the radio by chance. At first, she couldn't believe what she was hearing. But as his voice continued, her heart sank deeper and deeper. Each word was a dagger. So that was what he really thought of her. Back at the radio station, a staff member finally noticed the light indicating the microphone was still on and rushed into the booth. "Turn it off. You're still live," he hissed. The boyfriend froze in shock, his phone slipping from his hand. Panic flooded his face as he realized what he had done. Without a second thought, he jumped up and sprinted out, searching for Bonnie. Meanwhile, Bonnie was nearby. She hadn't moved from her spot, but her expression had completely changed. Her eyes, once soft and warm, were now filled with fire. She was standing with her friends when her boyfriend finally found her. Breathless, he ran up to her and bowed deeply. "I didn't mean it. I didn't know it was on. Bonnie, please, just listen." But Bonnie didn't move. She didn't say a word. As this scene unfolded, two new male students happened to be standing nearby. They had recently transferred to the school and were just starting to get familiar with campus life. Both were strikingly handsome, and Bonnie had never seen them before. Coincidentally, they too had heard the radio broadcast. And now, they stood watching this dramatic moment play out, watching as Bonnie's boyfriend begged for forgiveness. Then, something inside the boyfriend snapped. His true colors began to show. "What?" he scoffed. "You think you're so special now? Just because a few people heard it? Please, don't act like you're better than me. You were lucky I even looked your way." That was the final straw. Without hesitation, Bonnie raised her fist and delivered a swift, powerful uppercut right to his chin. The crowd around them gasped as he stumbled backward, completely stunned. The punch sent him sprawling to the ground in a dramatic fall. The two handsome students stood frozen in awe. One of them blinked, the other whispered, "Did she really just?" Bonnie didn't even look back. She calmly removed the necklace he had given her, let it drop to the ground, and walked away, head held high, her dignity untouched. Her heart might have been bruised, but her spirit had never been stronger. And just like that, her story was no longer about being admired. It was about being respected. That night, Bonnie sat with her two best friends under the warm glow of the city lights. They huddled close together on the rooftop of their dorm, sharing snacks, drinks, and quiet moments of comfort. The stars above seemed to listen in as the three girls laughed, cried, and talked about everything, especially about Bonnie's recent heartbreak. Her friends tried their best to cheer her up, joking about how the necklace looked cheap anyway, and how Bonnie's punch deserved an award. Then, in the middle of their conversation, Bonnie suddenly went quiet. Her eyes sparkled with a new kind of determination. "You know what?" she said, breaking the silence. "I've made up my mind. I won't limit myself anymore. From now on, I'm going to date a handsome guy." Her two friends stared at her for a moment, then burst into laughter and claps. "Yes," one of them said. "Finally. I mean, if you're going to deal with all that drama, might as well date someone gorgeous." "Exactly," said the other. "No more pity dating. You're a sculpture student, Bonnie. You deserve beauty in all forms." Their laughter echoed into the night, and for the first time in days, Bonnie felt free. The next morning, her parents knocked on her door as usual to wake her up for class. Her father peeked inside and called gently, "Bonnie, time for university." But Bonnie just pulled her blanket over her head and said, "I'm taking a leave from school." Both her parents stood in stunned silence outside her door. Leave?" her mother gasped. "This reminds me of the time she insisted on transferring schools," her father murmured. Her mother nodded, yes, and then suddenly changed her mind because she met that handsome boy at the gate. "I swear, she stayed just because of him." Her mother turned toward the sky and whispered, half joking, "Please, let her meet another handsome boy today." Meanwhile, back on campus, Bonnie had reluctantly pulled herself out of bed and wandered toward the main building. She wasn't sure why she was even there, until fate stepped in. She turned a corner and there he was. One of the handsome boys from the day before. The very one who had witnessed her dramatic breakup and the uppercut. He looked equally surprised to see her. "Oh, it's you," he said, recognizing her. "The girl from yesterday." Bonnie blinked, frozen by the sight of him. His eyes were kind, his posture graceful, and his voice calm. "Do you happen to know where the library is?" he asked politely. But Bonnie was already lost in her own world. In her imagination, she was inside a beautiful art room. The same man stood before her, placing a bouquet of flowers gently on a marble table. He looked up with a sweet smile, soft and shy. Her heart raced. Then the imaginary girlfriend sitting across from him slowly turned around, and to Bonnie's shock, the girl's face was her own. She snapped out of it and quickly composed herself. "Yes," she said a little too enthusiastically. "Happy to help. I'm actually part of the sculpture department's student council, so it's my job to assist new students. I'll take you there." As they walked side by side, her heart began to flutter again. Not from a shallow crush, but from a genuine sense of possibility. When she returned home later that day, her parents were sitting at the kitchen table, waiting for her to explain her decision. She smiled brightly and said with pride, "Mom, Dad, I've decided. I'm never leaving Yale University."